Welcome to Greying Matters. Hello, and welcome to a completely fresh start, I think is probably the best way to put this. My name is Ryan, and I'm going to be running the Greying Matters channel for as long as it feels good. Basically, to kind of cut a long story short, I have very recently discovered that I want to kind of create content that does something for people in a weird way. And I have, full disclosure, I have another channel on YouTube that maybe we'll talk about another time. But I do have another channel on YouTube and have been making content for that for quite a long while. I think it's somewhere near 4 years. And I have very much enjoyed making content for that channel. But after a while you kind of, or at least I did, kind of felt that I don't know, I was kind of shouting into the void and not really doing anything. Do you know what I mean? As a creative person, it's sort of, you need to feel like you're performing a purpose in some way, shape or form. And recently I haven't felt like I have been. And so I tried a little bit of an experiment on my other channel, something a little bit more relaxed, something a little bit more subdued, something that hopefully can relax people and distract them and take them away from the hustle and bustle for, half an hour or so. And it's recently inspired me to start a new channel. I do have my parents to thank for the idea, so thanks Mum and Dad. But yes, so this new channel, this new venture, and it's something I think I'm going to get a lot from it, or I'm hoping to get a lot from it. And the name of it is Greying Matters. And the reason I've decided to call it Greying Matters is because I'm just about to hit 30, and in the past sort of year and a half, a lot's kind of changed with me, mentally speaking. I've been through the ringer in some respects, and I feel like I'm coming out the other side of it now, and so I'm sort of having that weird moment of kind of figuring out what you're all about, if that makes sense, because I've been so buried in other things for so long that I'm now kind of actually deciding what I want to do and how I want to function, and how I want my mind to work and stuff like that. So it's been a long, decade-long journey to sort of get to this point, but that's where I am. And the reason I've decided to call it Greying Matters is because my hair's going grey. My hair is going grey, and it kind of felt like, the greying of my hair has kind of coincided with me figuring out my grey matter, my mind, and so all of these things and this journey of discovery that I've been recently embarking on, it's all sort of coincided with my hair going grey. And so as a result, that's why I've called the channel Greying Matters. Matters to grey over, life things and stuff that I guess you maybe, at least in my life, you don't get a chance to think about on a daily basis because everything is 100 miles an hour all the time, and I'm just trying to slow that down for these. I'm going to do one a week. I'm going to upload once a week. I'm planning to upload at the beginning of every week, reflecting on the previous one. And that's sort of the mentality I'm going to have going forward with these, is that it's a point of reflection so that I can take whatever I learned last week into a new week and try and change something. If it's my behaviour that's kind of distracting me or affecting me negatively, then I can do something about it. But maybe provide for other people, even if it's just an excuse to sort of listen to somebody waffle on about nothing. They can sit and listen to me for half an hour or so. But also just a calming atmosphere, something to kind of, just a low energy thing, just something that will hopefully provide an escape for somebody who's looking for it. The main kind of, what shall I say, feature, I suppose, with this, is that the entire thing is at the mercy of my mind. The entire thing. So I could talk about anything. the topics are not restricted to a certain thing. It's kind of whatever just pops into my mind, whatever provides thought at that moment in time is what I'll end up talking about. So this is completely unscripted, completely unplanned, completely unprepared. I have literally just set up my microphone and I'm just sat talking to myself in a tiny little room, and that's how it's going to go. So I hope that people are interested in the idea. I hope that people potentially will gravitate towards something like this, as, you know, like I say, something that's quite calming and quite hopefully therapeutic if I manage to hit my marks right and you know, create the right atmosphere around it. So hopefully that will be fun for people and sort of be a nice distraction. So anyway, recently, just to sort of, I guess, put people in the picture, I have a full-time job. A 9 to 5, for want of a better phrase, and it's grueling work at the moment. It really is grueling. There is a lot happening. I don't think, much like a lot of people, COVID hasn't really helped the situation, but it's been very, very challenging lately, and so that is predominantly what's taking up a lot of my headspace at the moment. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's happening at work that I'm trying to kind of process in a healthy way, because I've been on the other end of the spectrum where I haven't dealt with it in a healthy way. I've gotten very angry with people at work, and, you know, kind of that immediate catharsis of just telling somebody where to go and all that kind of stuff. I've been on that side of the fence before, and it's not a particularly nice place to be. But I guess if this is a fresh start, it's weird because I'm kind of talking as though I'm talking as part of my other channel, and on my other channel there's kind of like a general understanding of what I have been through and what I've done, and, you know, things that have happened, because I've spoken about it in videos before. Granted, the other channel it's a bit of a hodgepodge of a number of different things, and so therefore it's not necessarily consistent. So I wouldn't say that the audience that watches those videos is particularly aware of those things, maybe. But anyway, I'm a very driven person. I'm a very motivated person. I can't be idle for very long. Especially in recent years, I really struggle with just being calm and everything like that. And so I'm continuously chasing something. And my parents and I were talking about this the other day, actually. You know, I've been very guilty of chasing something so hard that you don't realize all the things that you're passing. You know, you're a 100% sprint all the time, and you're never kind of fully aware of the things that you're ignoring on the way past. So, but anyway, I started my job maybe, I think it's just over 5 years ago now. I started my job, and it wasn't my choice. I came out of university after studying illustration and passing my degree in illustration. I came out of university and was unemployed for about 10 months, I think it was. It was a long time. It felt like an eternity. And so I was back and forward to the job centre and stuff like that. And I don't think education ever really fully prepares somebody for something like that. And so it was very much a culture shock for me. I was quite naive and quite sort of sheltered from a lot of things anyway. But then, when I came out of university, having achieved the thing that I'd been chasing in my entire childhood, when I came out of university on the other side and sort of, you know, was ready for this mysterious mythological job that I'd been working my life towards, when I came out of the other side and was welcomed with unemployment instead of job prospects and success, it was one hell of a culture shock. I did not know what to do. It was very, very confusing, very scary, because when I'd moved up north, I didn't really know many people. I didn't have connections. I didn't have sort of for want of a better phrase, network that I could sort of use to my advantage and, you know, to get work and stuff like that. I had effectively started from scratch. And I left university and immediately fell into unemployment, and 10 months of it, and it was horrible. You know, I think to a certain extent you get lured into a false sense of security at university. During your time at uni, that free time that you have is like nectar. It's like gold dust. When you have that free time and you think, oh, I wish I could have this all the time. And much like we've all learned on the back of COVID, free time or an excess of free time isn't always a positive thing. And so I found myself very bored, very depressed in some moments and all of that kind of stuff. It was hard work. But anyway, cutting a long story short, I eventually ended up stumbling into the job that I do now. And for obvious reasons, I'm not going to say where I work or what I do, really, because that limits my ability to talk freely about it. But I started there. And I was just employed as a regular employee, one of the main sort of body of staff. I was employed there with no prior skills in the job that I do, no prior experience, no prior knowledge. It was just, okay, now I have this job, what do I do with it? And so I basically was thrown in at the deep end, well and truly, and I just had to figure out how to swim. And so that's what I was doing. I spent months and months and months just sort of nose to the grindstone, really trying to learn the trade that I'd ended up walking into, trying to figure out the skills and the lingo and the terminology, because it's very scientific, what I do. It has a lot of basis in, biology and all of that kind of stuff, and then there's kind of a little bit of physics sprinkled in there for various other things. There's a lot going on. And yes, you can just look at it at a base level and try and sort of figure out the bare minimum and just do that. This thing goes in here. But that wasn't enough for me. I needed a little bit more. I needed something that was a bit more involved, a little bit more, and after years, after a lifetime in education, I needed something to sink my teeth into. And so all of this new knowledge, which as an artistic person, as a creative person, suddenly diving into an academic kind of field was very, very bizarre. It was a way of thinking that I hadn't really engaged with, to be honest with you. Obviously, I did the necessaries at school, but I never really fully engaged with an academic mindset because my mind is always wandering off in 13 different places, which, is why this whole endeavour with Greying Matters is going to be a bit of a ride, because I don't know where my mind will wander off to next. But anyway, so yes, it was a culture shock. It was very, very different, very strange, and I got to learning. And I think ultimately the thing that has been my Achilles heel in all of this is impatience to succeed. I have been very guilty of chasing too hard, and so the moment that I got into the business as a regular employee, I wasn't learning the job. I was preparing to take the next step and become a supervisor in the department that I worked in. And so I was leeching knowledge off everybody. I was running around the building trying to make sure that I learned every shred of information that was available to me. And at the same time, I was running my other YouTube channel. I was trying, again, desperately to get it into a position where it could monetize, where it could be profitable to me, where I could consider it a success. And so I chased that so intensely that everything was just a blur. I wasn't really sleeping very well. I am a person who doesn't particularly like sleep. I feel like it's a waste of time, and if there was a way of turning that functionality off in a human brain, I would do it. But so I wasn't really sleeping very well. I was putting 110% energy into work. I was coming away and putting 110% energy into YouTube videos, and it was a lot. And so as the years went on and I sort of slowly got further and further towards my goal of hitting that supervisor mark, I eventually was given the opportunity to apply for the position. There was me and one other person. The other person had been in the business a lot longer than I had. But lacked certain skills, shall we say, that I felt at the time that I had. And so went to the interview a little bit arrogant, a little bit cocky, a little bit sure of myself. And I went to the interview, was pretty convinced that I'd got it, and then didn't. And so was knocked back in favour of this other person, who unfortunately then went on to do a ropey job, shall we say. It was an interesting couple of months, let me put it that way. Me and a friend of mine who were working in the department together at the time were just, even though we all of us in that team really got on, the moment that this person became supervisor, it was really difficult to keep that same kind of team spirit and team atmosphere that we'd had before, because it just fundamentally changed the other person, you know. But as fate, luck, whatever would have it, eventually that person decided to give the job up and opened the door for me. And so me and another colleague of mine, we ended up getting the position together and have been constantly working ever since to sort of try and keep things afloat. And being completely honest, it's felt like over the past 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years maybe, I can't actually think how long it's been, maybe 2.5-ish. I don't actually know, it feels like a lot longer than that, but anyway. We have been working very, very hard to try and keep all of the plates spinning, and not without its challenges, let me put it that way. It felt like the world was against us a lot of the time. We were completely just overwhelmed with work and stuff like that, things that were being asked of us that had never been asked of anybody that had kind of gone before us and all of that kind of stuff, because I think that they knew that we had the work ethic to do it, and it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And so time went on again. We kept the business, we kept the department afloat, and, you know, against ever increasing odds, we managed to keep everything going the way we wanted it to go. And as time went on, we thought we were doing okay. But then the more meetings that started happening, oh, you're not performing this task, and where's this report I was asking you to run, and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, me and my colleague are thinking, we're running an entire department on not enough people. Like, how do you expect us to do all of these reports as well? And so, time moved on again. The opportunity for management came up, and I jumped at the chance because, again, my success-hungry brain was desperate for improvement, desperate for success, desperate for the next sort of tick on my CV, you know, something that will make me look really desirable to an employer and all of that kind of stuff. And I've been chasing that thing ever since. And so the opportunity to become manager came up, and I thought, right, that's it, I'm committing to it, I'm doing the training, I'm doing it. And so I did a lot more extra learning. I was doing extra hours at work to make sure that I fundamentally understood every shred of how that department worked, and went through a handful of months of very kind of involved training stuff, again, to my creative mind, stuff that I just I didn't have a concept of, but I still had to digest that information, and I was doing my damnedest to try and do that. Went through the training, went and learned from a very skilled technician from another store, was very happy with the way sort of things were going and everything like that. And then the day of the decision came. There was a meeting with a group of managers within my store, and then was given to somebody else. The position was given to somebody else. And, to say that I was depressed is something of an understatement. It was horrible that I'd put in all of this work and all of this dedication, all of this commitment, to then be presented with that at the end of it. And, you know, the couple of years since, or I have no concept of time. I think it's coming across quite clearly. You know, I've worked for the business for 3 years, but I did 4 years of training. But, yeah, the time since that particular person has taken over have been rocky, to say the least. Very, very rocky. and I was completely wrapped up in the stress and anxiety of it all, completely and utterly. And I continuously disagreed with decisions that were being made because they were in the interest of the wrong thing in my mind. If you're running a team, your team should be your top priority, not working them harder than they should be to earn that little bit of extra cash. You should be looking after your team first and foremost, and then they will carry you to the place that you need to get to. And I continuously disagreed with the approach to the work and everything like that until I ended up going on the sick. I think I went on the sick for... was it a month? It felt like an eternity, but maybe it wasn't a month. Maybe it was only 2 weeks. But I ended up going on the sick, and that didn't really help things. I was left alone with my thoughts a lot, and that was challenging. That was really, really challenging. And I think after a time, I realised that things weren't going to improve the way I wanted them to improve. Things weren't going to change because the business has run the way it has run for 20 or so years, and why should it change? Why should it change for somebody as insignificant as me, And so I was kind of wrestling with that for a long time, thinking, but how you're treating people is wrong. You should strive to change, and you should strive to be better and change how you approach your staff and your people and your teams and everything like that. And I was convinced that they were the ones that were wrong, and they were the ones that were causing the problem, and blah blah blah. And to a certain extent that's still kind of true, but I decided instead to change my mindset towards it, and have been on a year-long journey. See, there's another time signature that doesn't entirely make sense, but hey, we'll go with it. I've been on a year-long journey since to try and wrestle my mind and get to a point where I actually am in control of how I react to things. I'm in control of how I digest the world, I suppose, is probably the best way to put it. And so ever since then, my priorities have shifted. It's not about that kind of mythological success that you're sold at school and college and university. It's not about that. Success is in contentment and happiness. If you can find that place, you will be so much more productive and so much more just useful in life if you can kind of find it in yourself to get to that position, at least. And this is entirely talking about myself. This is sort of my read on myself. I can be so much more useful if I just take away that kind of success-driven, academic-driven goal and turn it into a more personal thing. And so that's basically what I've been doing over the past handful of months. I have been slowly but surely ticking off things in my brain, thinking, well, that was a poisonous thought. Try not to think like that in the future, and if you do, maybe deal with it like this, and kind of self-helping and sort of a little bit of personal growth and stuff like that. And so that's what I've been wrestling with sort of over the past couple of years, and that's sort of probably been the lowest, I would say, over the past sort of 3 or 4 years. Another time signature that doesn't make sense. Over the past 3 or 4 years, I have been probably at the lowest my mental health has ever been. And it's only really very recently that I've kind of found this equilibrium that just comforts me. And as a result, this channel has been born because I want to talk about things, and sometimes I'm going to be struggling with something, or sometimes I'm going to be conflicted with something and maybe need to kind of have a creative outlet for it. And now this is that. My hope is that over time people will relate to the situation that I found myself in, and maybe sort of have moments of, oh, I felt like that before, maybe this guy can help me. Or maybe just listening to him and having somebody else that sort of understands just the normal trials and tribulations of a working Joe, somebody who can kind of convey that and, you know, communicate with me. And obviously, with it being YouTube, you can comment and you can talk to me and we can kind of open a dialogue about some of these things. And no, not every week is going to be as sort of intense and sort of, you know, mental health driven as maybe this has been, or, you know, career and life driven as this has been. But instead, you know, just to kind of try and end on a high note, you know, I am a very creative person. I have lots of different hobbies. Obviously, video making is one of them. I play guitar, which I haven't done in a little while, but I play guitar, and so I you know, I'm very, very into music, and I'm very, very into sort of how music can convey such strong emotions and stuff like that. I'm a gamer. I play a lot of video games. I love a good story. I love movies, comic books, all sorts of different things. And so some weeks I might end up talking about some of that stuff. You know, if something has really kind of like tickled my brain and really inspired me in a way that, you know, kind of has stuck with me during a week, maybe I'll talk about that. Maybe I'll talk about something that's sort of like interesting and inspiring in a very different way. And, you know, that's the beauty, I think, of doing something like this, where there is no structure, there is no regiment, there is no the formula to any of this. It's just my mind downloading information into a video after a week at work. And like I say, sometimes I'll have had a bad week, and this week has been particularly rough. But, you know, there will be other weeks where I have great weeks, you know, where maybe I've been off with my fiance and we've gone and done something together and, you know, seen a different place and done something new and all of that kind of thing. You know, this is very much it's a totally different kind of adventure in my mind. You know, this is something that I think has the potential anyway, if I do it right, it has the potential to resonate with people in a way that my other content for my other channel just simply doesn't, you know. And I want to kind of create that personal link for somebody who maybe needs it. You know, I do know a lot of people in my place of work that need that connection, that needs somebody to just say the thing that they're thinking out loud, outside of their own head, that will help them. You know, they can then digest that piece of information, you know, try and wrestle with it themselves and stuff like that. And just, I don't know, providing a safety net for people, I think, is very important at a time like this. And so if in some insignificant way me chattering to myself for 30 minutes in a box room can achieve that for somebody, then I think it's a good thing. So anyway, I think as we're just about to hit the half an hour mark, just shy of, I just want to thank you all, whoever has decided to tune into this first video. Thank you very much for listening to me, and, you know, I hope that you're willing to come along on a brand new journey with me and, you know, try something new. So thank you very much for listening to me. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and I shall see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.